Evening, everybody. This is Cinnamon Noir.
And this is the ramen shop.
Welcome back to Alwa's Awakening. So, here we are back in the Amber Sacellum. I don't know if you recognize this room, but it's right below this room with the two fish heads that I duck out of very quickly in order to avoid getting hit. And there's an orb up there.
Is there a difference? Those red things that shoot, is the only difference that they shoot at you automatically?
Well, for one thing, there's actually hurt. The blue one can only destroy your bubble. The red ones actually hurt you.
Will they target your bubble?
No, they can't hurt your bubble, oddly enough, just you. So another weird thing we've learned in this game. Fire cannot destroy a bubble, but it can pass through human flesh.
Fair enough.
Nothing makes sense in this game. Anyway, so, having used the lightning power to get through, we are now in the Sacellum Depths, which is one of my favorite dungeons in the game. I know I said I liked Void Tower a lot, but this one's a lot of fun because it's full of just crazy, hidden walls and, like, tricks. Anyway, so that hidden passage is one way you can get up to this block, but I have no idea why they use it, because you can get through just as well with the green block and the bubble. It's really unnecessary. Here's a new enemy we see. I really like these guys. These little, like, fox wizards. The red version, they just raise their hands and it causes a flame wall to appear right in front of you. So, it's kind of like hit scan. You actually cannot avoid their attacks. The only way you can get around is by jumping. If you're not on the ground, they can't hit you. Yeah, it's a little unusual. Anyway, having just gotten into the Sacellum Depths, we are now going to leave. There's actually an exit right in here. To the underground chamber, which we've seen before, but we haven't seen much of it. Actually, right after we do this next dungeon, we're going to pass through the underground chamber, which is not a dungeon proper, but it does contain a new item. We can't get through the underground chamber right now. Don't know if you've noticed, there's a lot of water blocking our way. What we get in the Sacellum Depths is actually going to help with that.
Interesting.
I also, in addition to everything else, I happen to really like this song for the Sacellum Depths, and the design. I'm kind of a sucker for this weird, like, gray, accented by random colors palette. They use that in several Castlevania games. Like, the one I remember is Dawn of Sorrow, where you go into this level that's based on the first level from Castlevania, like the entrance hall, and as a result, everything's in monochrome, because it's old-fashioned. It's very odd. You actually get... Sorry, go ahead.
I think the last level of Salt and Sanctuary was like that.
Oh, really? Interesting. You know, also Wind Waker kind of started that, too. Wind Waker, when you go to Hyrule Castle for the first time, everything's in black and white monochrome, and time is frozen.
Interesting. Yeah, it was the same... That's often shorthand for time being frozen. I've seen it in a few other games, actually.
You see it in anime, too. Anyway, we want to get over there to the left. However, there's a big gap keeping us from there. And we can't get over with a bubble because the fish head won't let us. And this room has nothing in it.
Fish heads. Sorry.
Fish. I don't know why games love fish heads so much, but they do. We were talking about Castlevania. Castlevania is full of fish heads as well. Oh, I like this room. It's got this skull that's just full of little orbs to get. But you have to pass through the right hidden wall in order to find them. You can either fall into that on the way down, or you can get back up using a tool later. But, you know, more stylish to make sure you get it early. So you might think that either that lava or those spikes are fake, but one thing you have to remember if you look at the map here is that this is the lowest room in the game. You cannot get lower than this. Which means that that should tell you that obviously neither one of these are fake. Since you couldn't pass through them to a lower room because there isn't a lower room. I don't know if you remember this guy. Actually a pretty hard enemy, considering he appears in the first dungeon, but he also appears here too.
Yeah.
You can block him with a block. Not that difficult, but I don't do it just because it takes too much time. So, you know, in a very real sense, I am taking damage to save time. Anyway, there's a warp down here, which is nice. It means that even if you don't have the time to get the thing here, you're not stuck here, even though physically you kind of are. Because you can just go to the warp and warp back to another place, and then make progress here when you want to. This game actually does a very good job of staying open. there will be, like, one-way trips, but they're only temporarily that way, and if you push on, you will find a way back up. Here I take a dumb hit. That's the way it goes. Fortunately, the second... why am I saying second, too? The 4th and 5th dungeons in the game do not have bosses, so there's no need to worry about keeping your flask up for them. On the other hand, these 2 levels are quite capable of destroying all of your health even without a boss, so don't be too careless with it. So this room's kind of weird and annoying. You have to dodge these 2 guys. Set up 2 bubbles and get up there. And also, we need to find some way to get to that purple switch, which appears completely inaccessible.
That is odd.
These red slime guys, we saw them before, but now we see one of the things they do. When you pass underneath them, they will drop. You can use this to get them to fall into pits. Very helpful. If they actually fall onto a surface, they will from then on not go back and forth, but actually go in one direction until they fall off. Which can be useful, but not very often. Anyway, that room really took me to pieces. 2 hits. So here's more confusing areas. We need to somehow find a way to get to that key. I'm mad at this fox guy, so I beat up on him a little bit.
Ouch.
Then to the left, we have a room where we need a key. So there really is no option here. We have to find a way to get to this key somehow.
Yeah.
I think I thought for a minute that maybe I could fall through the spikes to get to it.
But thankfully you didn't.
But I decided
find
against
that.
it. No.
That's actually probably a good way to test it, isn't it?
No, it actually isn't, because the spikes won't hurt them. It would have if
I
I'd made the sensible decision, but instead I somehow thought that maybe because he could walk on it unharmed, that maybe, like, it let me through. I don't know.
But if it was, if they were fake, it would have fallen through, right?
Presumably. That's the logical thing to do. I was screwing up a little here. Anyway, the real answer is that you actually have to go through this room.
Ah.
So, passing through a few hidden walls, we now go to this area. And we can go to the left, where you get a purple switch that will open up that.
Ah.
Now we need to go back around, make a complete circuit.
But at least you can kind of go the short way here.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I can, but actually I have to get up to full health again. Because there's so many damaging things in the area up to come that I can't risk doing it with incomplete health.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Also means I need to be really careful with this guy. Or not.
Yeah.
That little hesitation you saw was me slapping myself in the forehead.
I've done dumber.
So have I. Anyway, this time I decide I'm just going to hit him with the spell, because why not? Really, when you first enter a room, it's one of the most sensible things to do, because you always have a full spell charge at that point. So if you have an enemy in your way, don't bother waiting around to take the hit. Just use the zapper on it. Zap on, zap off. Sorry, that was a reference to the clapper. I know it's horribly dated. Anyway, passing through here again. We have the Fox Sorcerer again. Make sure to jump when he's casting the spell so you can avoid it. And I destroy this guy just to work off some nervous energy. Anyway, so now what we have to do is go in here, press the switch, and get back up again.
Oh, and thankfully you can... Yeah, I was gonna say...
Yeah.
I was hoping you weren't gonna have to go all the way
That'd be a
around.
real nasty trick, wouldn't it? Like maybe if it just
Yes,
activated
it
a little
would.
platform over to the right-hand side again. They're capable of doing that. For instance, here's another really nasty room, where it appears you have no choice but to walk on top of the spikes and take a hit.
Ooh.
Actually, what you're supposed to do is go up here, because it's another invisible... Sorry, another hidden container. What I didn't notice is that then you should, you know, put the block on top of it, so you can jump on it. And I just take the hit anyway, because I'm a dummy.
Oh well.
It happens. Anyway, we are now very close to the upgrade of the Sacellum Depths, which is, of course, the whole reason we came here. But first we need to pass through some more hidden walls. So I'm not taking my chances on this guy hitting me.
The face that Fox makes is hilarious.
I know, I love him. It's really one of my favorite enemies in the game. And there's another version of him later, so you know. Clearly the creators liked him as much as me. I also love the fact that in this room you literally don't need to use the first two. Here's an embarrassing section of this game.
Ooh.
Luckily assist mode is on, because I'm in Let's Play mode. So I just fall into the next room over. It's kind of weird. It's supposed to spawn you in the room where you die. But oddly enough, if you are on top of a ladder or somewhere where you can go down, when it respawns you, you'll fall through the ladder and go into the next room below.
That is weird.
Yeah, it's kind of an awkward coding mistake, I think.
I wanted to laugh at the skeleton giving you a heart.
I know. I was going to mention that if you didn't. If I just managed to get him, maybe I could have gotten that heart.
It was just like a deliberate...
It's a middle finger.
No.
Yeah,
I know that if you hadn't just died there, it wouldn't have done it. Like,
well, it's entirely possible it would have. You can't tell with this game. Whether or not it gives you a heart, I'm pretty sure is entirely RNG. It's not like Metroid, where it tends to give you stuff when you need it. You know, Metroid, when you're low on energy, you'll get more energy pickups. Like, it'll give you that in preference to missiles.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're low on missiles, it'll give you more of those. But this game, it's honestly totally random what you get. Anyway, these guys have a curious attack animation. I think what happens is that as long as their hands are up, if you are on the ground and not moving for any period during that, you'll get hit with the wall of flame. But if you keep moving in one direction or the other, or you're in midair, it doesn't work at all.
Oh.
You have to be standing still in one place for it to work. Which you'd think would make it very easy to dodge, but it's a little harder than you'd think, actually.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's a series of very tight jumps you have to do.
Ooh. I always hate jumps like those.
Well, this game it's not too difficult, because you can really just tap. You just lightly tap the button, and it gets you exactly as much lift as you need. Games where you have to hold for an indeterminate amount of time, that's awful. But fortunately, this game is not like that. Anyway, now we're setting up a shortcut so we can get back here anytime we want. Though really, there's not much reason to. And here is the room right before the upgrade. And you might notice from the nature of this room what the upgrade is. Because we can't summon the bubble because of the fish head, and there's all that water in the way.
Oh.
So, I don't know if you noticed before, but blocks that we didn't summon, when you push them into the water, they would float. This upgrade gives our block the ability to do the same.
I didn't notice that.
Now that we have this upgrade, our block will act just like those blocks, and it will act like a little platform across the water that we can ride. They get a lot of mileage out of this ability, believe you me.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And in fact, one thing I really like about this game is they combine it with the next upgrade you get to make for some really interesting platforming challenges. So, now we are pretty much done with the Sacellum depths. I think there are a few orbs left in here, but there's no sense in going back to get them. Here's an area we couldn't get to before because we couldn't cross. I guess technically this is the end of the Sacellum depths. So this is the first real platforming challenge you have with the cube, jumping in midair over it. We actually did something like this close to the beginning of the game with a regular block that we didn't summon, but now it's getting a little bit harder. This last part of the dungeon, just like a lot of them we've seen, is just for orbs. You can completely skip it. I think it also creates a shortcut at the end, which makes it a little easier to get around. This game's pretty good about giving you the shortcuts. Here's just another save room. One of the more out-of-the-way ones. Probably one you'll only use once in your entire playthrough. I don't know if you've noticed, but not just the spikes, but a lot of different elements have like a completely black border, like the ladders. Makes them a little awkward. I'm annoyed at this guy. He managed to summon a flame wall on top of my bubble. How do you do that? What I'm trying to do is get above him in order to... now I'm just annoyed. He got me twice. Got me twice, shame on you. Anyway, we can go back into this area from above later, or we can get him. I don't think I get those orbs in this playthrough, but like I said earlier, it really doesn't matter. Just get 60 orbs and don't bother much beyond that. And really, by getting 60 orbs, you can only get the ones that are fun to get, and there's enough to make that happen. Anyway, I like how there's just this one enemy behind a wall. Like, there's no reason to open it except to get rid of him, because he's annoying.
Yeah.
But that is definitely enough of a reason. So here's another little door here. In these, the second set of dungeons, we'll start to see a lot more of these doors. And tougher challenges. So I die again.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, not only do we have that weird thing where you'll go down a ladder if you respawn, when you die inside one of the door areas, you'll respawn outside it. Here it just so happens that you not only respawn outside it, but on top of a ladder.
For the sort of double whammy.
Yeah, exactly. So don't die in this room, is my advice to you. It's actually not that hard. If I'd had more than 1 health, I probably would have gotten through okay.
Yeah.
With those foxes, they just took me to pieces. It does help to know when to jump here, because these guys are a little bit of a tough threat.
Yeah, being at different elevations kind of screws you.
Yeah, you want to group their projectiles together. At least this time I don't have to go back into the room. Fortunately, your orbs... That's not good. So I was holding up when I respawned, and that means that it didn't take me all the way down the ladder. This is a weird game, man. If you press up at any point during the thing, it will actually arrest your downward motion at the point in the ladder where you were. It's like you're glitched through the ladder. Anyway, you can fall through that area in the bottom, that's why there's a ladder there. And you can use that to get those orbs where the fox guy was, but I'm not going to bother.
Oh, yeah, no.
He's not worth it. He's dead to me. Annie. So yeah, these guys just... as soon as they're done falling, they just go in one direction. Kind of weird, actually. I would think they would continue the, like, going around in a circle thing.
Uh-huh.
So, I like the puzzles in this game, but some of them are pretty easy to cheese. This one being a perfect example. There's absolutely no reason to get anywhere near the left side of this screen. You could just use the bubble to go on that one block and avoid both of those orbs pretty easily.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember, but this is the area that leads to the exit of the Sacellum Depths that we saw earlier. We just opened a shortcut to it.
Uh-huh.
The shortcut would be, of course, if you want to go back and get those fox orbs. Why you would want to do that, I don't know, but, you know, you can. But anyway, now we're heading to the underground chamber. This is the second of the 2 areas we're going to be tackling in this video. Possibly the more interesting one, I don't know. There's some very curious enemies in here. And I don't just mean the flying eyeballs. Because really, flying eyeballs are pretty basic when it comes to fantasy games. I think it's harder to find a game that doesn't have flying eyeballs in it than that does. See, these little wobbling guys are kind of funny. We'll discover a quirk of their stuff later on, but they die in 1 hit. Anyway, here's another new enemy. This is the weird one I was talking about. These little sludge monsters. They run along the ground, and they can't hurt you while they're running along, but as soon as they pop up, they can hurt you. And of course, you can't hurt them while they're running along either. So going up in that room and getting past that spike gauntlet actually leads to a shortcut that you can open up. Not a terribly useful shortcut, but you may get some use out of it. This room is a very difficult platforming challenge that requires the use of both the block and the bubble. I don't think I do it in this video. It's one of those ones that's not worth it. So the lightning thing is kind of curious. It goes through some enemies, but not others. So these enemies, it sticks. It doesn't go through them. I like how a lot of enemies in this game have like a shocked expression when you hit them. Like they have 2 sprites. And they always seem so just miffed when you do it, too. The slime monsters, for instance, are great. They look like a Nickelodeon, like, Gak. Not the Gak. You know how the Nickelodeon had that logo, which was just a splatter of, like, orange stuff?
Oh, yeah.
They look like the Nickelodeon logo when you hit them. Anyway, you were talking about earlier about diabolical, hidden passages. This is one of those. One of these, still waters runs deep, and it's this one.
And the others just drown you?
That's right. The others, you just die instantly. And there's pretty much no way to tell unless you've done it before.
Yeah, because you couldn't even drop a block in it, because that would just float.
Exactly. Well, actually, maybe you could drop a block in it. I have never checked that one. In case you're curious about the block's motion properties, it'll move in whatever direction you were pushing it before it went in the water.
Oh, and then it'll pop.
Or whatever way you're facing. So here's an interesting thing about these guys that I figured out during this video.
Oh yeah, they fall over.
Hitting them with a lightning bolt will not kill them. It just stuns them and makes them fall over, and eventually they will get back up.
They take their sweet time about it.
They do. It takes a long time for that to happen. So I'm just ignoring this guy. I love how my bubble just pushes him out of the way.
They look like... Ooh.
Yeah, he hit me. So I hit him back.
I like how their eye just kind of narrows, though.
Yeah. They just seem really pissed off. But they can't do anything about it.
Like the Futurama meme of Fry with narrowed eyes.
Yes, that is what it looks like. Futurama has the best memes. Futurama also gave us, take my money!
Shut up and take my money.
Yeah, shut up
I
and
don't
take
want
my
to live on this planet anymore, and the not sure if meme.
When does he say I don't want to live on this planet anymore? Or is that Zoidberg?
It's the professor.
Oh. Farnsworth.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Futurama. Anyway. So we've now reached the end of the underground chamber and found the Book of Sutter, which means we are now twice as strong as we were before.
Ooh.
Incidentally, this is true for bosses as well as ordinary enemies. So basically, do not finish the game without getting this.
Oh god, yeah.
It's not hard to do, and it gives you an inestimable advantage against the bosses from now on. And the last two, you will absolutely need that advantage. We're not going to see that in the next video because, like I said, the 4th and 5th dungeons don't have bosses. But there's one more of Vicar's, lieutenants, and then there's Vicar himself, of course. So basically, 3 more dungeons from now on. This game does have a surprising amount of content, considering its roots. So the underground chamber is mostly done. We're back in an area that we've seen before. But we're just gonna sort of root out all the little loose ends here.
Interesting.
So over in this direction is an area we couldn't get through before. These little bubbles spawn, but like I said, I think in an earlier episode, these are not actually a way to get through. They're an obstacle.
Oh yeah, because they
make it harder to get across with the block, although not that hard. They're also there to trick you into thinking that maybe you can go fast enough to get across without them, but you can't.
Yeah, no. Ooh, that one was nasty.
Yeah, I think those blocks falling through there is supposed to be an indication that you can fall through those spikes. But I'm not falling for that one again. I've given myself enough damage from dropping directly onto spikes already. Anyway. Just getting another orb here. I'm not sure if 45 is another orb level, but it might be. Actually, now that I think about it, we were at 2 and we went to 3, so there's no way that 44 is the next orb level. It's something like... Actually, now that I think about it, it might be 50 orbs that gets you to level 4, which would make it even more ridiculous to try to go for level 5.
Yeah.
That would be literally half of them in the game are required to get you to the final level.
Oh god.
That's weird. Anyway, here's a circuitous thing. We opened up the first part of this, this shortcut all the way in the first video, like 15 minutes into the game. Now, at long last, we're opening up the second part of this shortcut, which is probably the most helpful shortcut in the game. It takes you all the way from the Amber Sacellum on the one hand to the underground chamber on the other. I'm going into the Sacellum right now so we can get this orb. We would have noticed this, of course, a long time ago, but since it was behind the lightning door, there was no way to get it. Oh, what do you know?
Oh, it is 45.
Oh, jeez. That means More than half. You have to get literally 54 orbs in order to get the final level. Oh man, this is really front-loaded then. I never even thought about that. Also, you want to talk about embarrassing situations here. This is the beginning of the game, right after the first boss. And I completely scrubbed that jump. That's embarrassing. Luckily, the game takes pity on me and has a heart.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was a...
Not my finest hour.
heart right there.
I've had a lot of not fine hours in Let's Play. This is one of my not finest. Anyway, actually, I've remembered finally what I'm doing. Now that we have the ability to cross bodies of water, it's time to go right back to the beginning of the game, which had a big pool that we could not cross. I don't know if you remember anything about it. It was basically, where we spawned there was a tree, and there was a well, and then to our left there was that big pond. So that's where we're heading back to now. I considered warping, but actually going through the Amber Sacellum got us that orb, and also it's just about equally fast. Not much of a difference. You know, it's kind of funny now that I think about it. This is just random, but... you know how Void Tower was the third dungeon that we did in the last video? You also go through a tower at the beginning of the game, and I really thought that the person who wakes you up calls that Void Tower. So it's like, wait a minute, I have to go to Void Tower? I thought it was just there. It was tiny.
Ooh.
But I could have sworn that, like, they were both called the same name, and I'm not entirely sure that they're not. Oh, another thing that we can do on the way here is show that guy the Book of Sutter, since he has to look at it, and we can get an orb from that. So he says the third part of the word is vold. This is actually a reference to a weird fan thing that these guys did. They had a website that had, like, special fan info, and to get into it you had to enter a password, because it was a password-protected site. The clues to the password are contained within the game. So he just told us what the third part of the password is, which is vold. I looked it up, and it said, this forum said that the full password was bag est vold. But I entered that, and I could not get through, so I have no idea what they were playing at. Maybe I just typed it in wrong, or maybe there's been some changes. My guess would be, since this game came out like 2 years ago, maybe they just shut it down. Anyway, I'm just fooling around in here a little bit, taking advantage of the stuff that I didn't have the first time I came here. Most notably the bubble. But then I realized that you can't really get anything in here, and why am I bothering anyway? Because, you know, there's no more orb levels to get.
Fair enough.
So, here we are crossing this section. This may seem a little frivolous, but you actually need this to get through the game. You need to go to this area. Because the person who's in here will give you an important key. But only if we quench their thirst. Just like in Pokemon. Only instead of getting us into Saffron City, this will get us into the Amethyst Passage. The Amethyst Passage is basically the 6th dungeon of the game. It's short, and there's another area outside it which has some puzzles in it, but it's where the 4th boss is. And it is essentially the 6th contained area which has puzzles in it. The area outside it, which is Solstice Mountain, doesn't have a lot of puzzles, but it has a lot of enemies. Anyway, we'll be seeing that in a few videos. Before we do that, we need to get the upgraded version of the bubble, which we'll see in the next video. And then we'll be heading off there. But until that time, we will be seeing you all later, so good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.